welcome to another YDA talk. Today I'm very happy to be joined by Daniel Bergmann, who's the managing partner at Stink, and he's talking to us from somewhere glamorous, I think. So Daniel, thank you for joining us. I know you're very busy. Time difference is a bit weird, but I appreciate you taking the time. Obviously, we're talking to you today because Stink won the Silver Award in the Producers Award at the 2020 YDA, and Stink has always been a big proponent for new talent and pushing new talent through to the industry, and you've been a big supporter of the YDA in the past and a previous chairman as well. So the first question I've got for you really is, can you explain to us why you think that new directing talent is so important to the advertising industry?
It's the new blood. It's not only just obviously directors, it's also with creatives, and we also see lately how much the new generation is bringing in and how the industry has been actually changing. So it's essentially the new blood. It's where especially in time when technology is changing and moving on so fast, and communication and social media and everything sort of kicking in a completely different way than from past. It's just basically sort of the way how because we're staying relevant. Mm-hmm. That's literally how new talent is, fresh talent is important, creative talent.
Yeah.
Why is it so important? Yeah.
And sort of new talent and the nurturing of new talent is essentially part of Stink's DNA, right? And always has been. You look for and you promote new talent across the company. So can you tell us a bit about how you do that and what the processes are that you go through to sort of find and kind of promote new directing talent?
So so we have we are one of the companies where we actually have always compare Stink to sort of a Liverpool in a football, because we are very much about homegrown talent. We have pretty much big percentage of our directors have been built at Stink or been brought to Stink very early stages of their careers, and they've been always brought in from sort of various places. We don't have any particular place we look. Obviously, we keep in touch with film schools. We in touch with Film Academy in Ludwigsburg and other film schools. We obviously now these days we look at constantly. We look at internet. We research. We talk to other people. So we are very deeply sort of involved and submerged into sort of this is the community, the creative community across the world. Because we are a global company, we obviously are looking talent from all sorts of places, which is extremely inspiring. And then once we feel somebody is and it's very much as well, we don't have a sort of some kind of a logical rationale behind why we're choosing talent to sort of bring in. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is about just the feeling that there's a creative connection. There's a sort of a we get excited about the work and about the person. Music videos have been also a big part of the talent development, especially lately. Last I would say 5 years, and then before obviously early sort of around like 2000 from 2000 to about 2000 when the record industry collapsed, then it kind of stopped a little bit and restarted again. So music videos is big vehicle. And then obviously last few years we have opened a very specific arm of Stink called Stink Rising, which is actually really just specifically focused on building new talent, and we got to surround the talent with all the support they need to be able to move on. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the techniques we're using and the way how we find talent.
And of the directors that you represent that won at last year's YDA, I think there are 3. So Dylan Williams, Jacob Jurasek, and Nick Rooney, and all brilliant pieces of work, but all quite different in their approach and their tone and their style. Is that an important aspect to think about? Is that, is it good to have a diverse mix of how directors approach a project?
Yes, so it is, but it's actually interesting what you're saying. If you look at the pieces, they actually are different because they're obviously done by different directors, mm-hmm. but they also have some similarities because we always think of ourselves as a sort of ultimately a film company, filmmaking company, And narrative filmmaking dialogue is always it's the ultimate sort of form of filmmaking from our point of view, or one of the most important ones. And actually, if you look at all of these three films, they all have dialogue, they all have narrative, they all have story, they have a dramatic arc. So they are different, but they have this one sort of connecting thing. So diverse talent is very important. Every director needs to have their own sort of own path. I always say every director's path is very different, and so but I think everybody has to be looked at in its sort of specific way, and diversity is very important. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any better.
No, that makes sense. That makes sense. So, you mentioned before about where you look for talent and how you kind of search for it, but obviously over the last 10, 15 years or more, the kind of the democratization of filmmaking and the ability for directors and people that want to be directors to find cameras and editing equipment, it's so much easier now than it used to be, which means there's so much more out there, so many more people can kind of do that. So does that make your job easier or harder? Are you awash with people and it's hard to find the really good stuff, or is it great that there's just so much out there that you can kind of look into?
And I would also add to all of this internet and specifically Vimeo and Instagram. So because there is all of these people, of course, lots of people are making work, making stuff. So there's definitely loads more. And if it's making our job, yes, it's kind of making us to look at and watch more things, and sort of it's potentially slightly more. I would say there's much more noise out there, and so it somehow is harder to go through all of this. But at the same time, it's just very interesting and sometimes quite inspiring. But yes, there's a lot to choose from. And it can be also slightly misleading because people are watching each other's work, and there's like whole generations of directors who are looking at each other and obsessed about each other's work. And sometimes it's good, but sometimes it also creates sort of a copycat culture. Right. So it's always quite tricky to find the original, the one who was at the beginning, the few of the real ones, with all the other ones which are actually just following up from that that one example. So it is quite complex, and that's how it is a little more complex at the moment. And how to find the right talent.
Obviously the directorial talent is integral and extremely important in who you choose to take on and who kind of becomes successful. But over and above that, what else is important? Like communication skills and kind of ability to kind of get your message across and deal with people. Is that stuff you look to as well? I mean, what's the balance?
So because it's very competitive and out there, and advertising, making commercials and content for brands, it's people's business, and it's not just about the skill of filmmaking. It is important what we call to play the game in some shape or form. It can have, as I said, some shape or form, so the different forms. Either you team up with a brilliant producer and you work really well with that producer who can help you to communicate, or you yourself need to be able to really what we call to play the game. So it's not just about the ideas, but to be able to understand how to communicate, how to go through conference calls, how to put treatments together, how to be able to, how to present them. Mm-hmm. It's tremendously important these days. Yeah. And how to stay unique again, to stay unique, to come up, to stay within the sort of boundaries. I hate to say the word boundaries, but within the parameters, realistic parameters, but yet bring something which the creative didn't think about. Yeah. So you stand out of the noise, so you are unique. You have something. It's incredible. There's few examples, maybe not necessarily working for our company, but one of them is, for example, Ian Pons-Jewell, who is exactly the example of an incredibly original filmmaker who is brilliantly able to be strategic and make it work within the industry. Yeah. So these skills have to somehow work in some shape or form for the talent to be successful.
Yeah. Okay. And this year, obviously, this past 12 months has been very difficult for the advertising industry and for many industries. Do you think that's had an impact on new talent and whether or not they're being seen and what they can do and how they're kind of breaking through into the industry? Has it been difficult for them as well, would you say?
So I have the privilege to look at various markets.
Mhm.
So I think it's been difficult. It's been difficult in some markets, some less. In some places it's been quite actually interesting because it actually opened up opportunities. I was actually surprised, for example, in the US, which is normally one of the most difficult markets. It actually there's quite a few directors who are able to break through during this period.
Okay.
Opportunities have been open. I think the clients and agents have been looking at also the talent from various diverse background, and just so I would say it's been quite varied. I wouldn't say it was necessarily more sort of less talent could be broken through, but I believe it was very different, very complex, and we had to sort of adjust to the conditions. But in some other markets, it was very difficult because markets stay very complicated, very conservative, and there was a sort of tendency to only work in with the safe pair of hands, and sort of the directors they were proven. UK, US were fine, I believe. Some other European markets were a little more complicated because they were very slow. But I would say overall, it's been more complicated, but there has been activity with new talent for sure.
That's good. And so also, you've been a long time supporter of the YDA. As I think I said earlier, you were a jury chairman a few years ago. You've always been involved with the YDA and kind of promoting it and being involved in it. So sort of twofold question is, why is the YDA important, and other competitions similar to the YDA, getting those young talents in front of people? Why do those events matter? And why should a director enter this year's YDA? What do you think that the ultimate benefit of doing that is?
So I would say specifically YDA. I would say YDA because there's others, other people. Lindy Start is doing, her thing is very, very interesting. Mm-hmm. What is it? 1.4. But it's quite UK oriented. I think, the Saatchi showcase used to be, or is still, I think it's renamed now, quite influential. Even I felt it was a little bit elitist always. Mm-hmm. I think YDA, why I'm mentioning, is actually being the one which was the most sort of democratic, and just the scope, being interested in markets all across the world, not markets, but territories all across the world, trying to bring directors from everywhere, with, giving specific focus to each of the territories. And also the the categories, it's YDA has always been, in my opinion, a little bit very. You just feel it's very creatively focused. It's very interested in talent. You feel the enthusiasm. You feel that it's not just something which is done sort of as a showcase, but it's actually really, you feel the energy that this show and these people behind it are trying to help and bring out new talent. And it started quite small, and there was always a hard time with funding, and it tried to the Cannes always tried to push it out from Cannes during the festival.
Yeah.
But just over the years, and I think the directors will tell us the more than me, is that it's been proven as a tremendously respected, and everybody now looks at it, and directors who are successful quite often succeed in their careers. So over the years, for the just sheer enthusiasm and the kind of honesty and the truth, how truly it worked for talent, and how hard, and in very hard conditions, that just worked. And I think this is why so much love it.
Great. Well, look, that seems like a perfect place to end. A very elegiac way for the YDA. So thank you, Daniel. Again, look, congratulations on the win from last year. I mean, Stink does such a huge amount of work, and with new directors and some fantastic stuff. So we look forward to seeing some other people that I'm sure are coming through the ranks at the moment. And maybe see you in Cannes in the summer. Who knows?
Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully.
Danny, I just wanted to say the talent sort of development, the whole thing about bringing new people, is just probably the most important thing we do, and the most fulfilling sort of thing production company and producers can do. And especially now when we have to work with diverse talent from support specifically girls and people from different backgrounds. I think that's also giving it another level of responsibility. So yeah, we love it. That's why we're doing what we're doing.